that. So I'll start that now. And very briefly about the collective, we're about 40 people at this point. We build AI products and train on them because what is the point of building something that will not get adopted? And so we follow a collective model, hence the name, and trying to make sure that all our voices are heard and that we are contributing to a future that we all want to see. So we'll figure out a ways that folks in the room, if you want to get involved, you can get in touch with us later on in the call. So I'm going to do a very brief introduction to the panelists, and then we can jump into the session. A bit of housekeeping will, thank you all for some of you for writing down the survey to understand who's in the room. And based on the survey, we've prepared some questions to ask the panel. We will reserve 10-15 minutes at the end to answer your questions. So if you are interested in asking a question, please use this tag, this question for panel in the chat, and someone in the team from the collective will monitor the chat to answer as many as we could. And then, yeah, we're really excited to have this conversation. So I will start with Jen Mazzon. She's currently the VP Hello, product at Trustlab. Hello, Jen. I love Jen. She's also she was the founding product manager of Google Docs. Imagine that. And she's now bringing insights from scaling teams and building career pathways at AI tech startups. Michael Poso is a software engineer and educator working at the intersection of user experience. Hi, Michael. Creativity, AI, and I can see your LinkedIn posts a lot of robotics these days, focusing on ethical and responsible applications of technology. His site, the robotage.com. Michael, feel free to drop that link in the chat if you want to learn more. Laurel is a creative technologist and B2B UX design leader who recently made a deliberate career transition. So hopefully very relevant to those in the room who are thinking about breaking into AI. She was taking a creative sabbatical to explore her creativity in AI tools, then decided to stay and found the Creonaut studio. So feel free to drop that in the chat as well. Jeff Balastro is a creative strategist leading the Crown Roots Foundation in Informed Design, and he has over 20 years of experience currently integrating AI to advance youth development through media, academic tools, and grassroots storytelling. And then I will be your host for today. I am a founder of the Taylor Root Collective. I'm so grateful for this group coming together. And my focus is to use design strategy, product management to create human-centered AI experiences. And I can't wait to dive into the session. So with that speed introduction, I would love to start with a question around, each of the panelists' first step into AI. Maybe we start with you, Jen. What was the specific moment or project that made you realize AI could be part of your career path?
Yeah, for me, it was when I was working at Coursera in the 20-teens. And Coursera was founded by Daphne Koller and Andrew Ng. Back then, it was all about machine learning. We weren't so much talking about AI. It was machine learning, machine learning, machine learning. And my product teams at Coursera, we started to develop features leveraging machine learning models that were just built, homegrown in-house at Coursera for things like student risk prediction, specifically for online courses that we were building out, for online degree programs, courses and degree programs where you really want to see who's at risk and you want to try to retain those degree program learners. So that was an example where for the first time I'm on a product team and I'm working at a company that has a lot of machine learning DNA, and we're starting to actually incorporate some machine learning models into our product. So that was the first time I was like, okay, I guess this is a thing, and it's only going to get more interesting.
Awesome. Well, you don't need to popcorn. Let me see. How about you, Jeff?
Yeah, how I transitioned into AI is just interesting. I kind of jump from a lot of things, to be honest. I was a decorative painter for 21 years in high-end interiors. I've painted all around the world in Europe and the country and ran my own business. And it was interesting because it's a very hands-on, laborious job. And I always made videos and did design, had to do all the design work. And COVID kind of just pushed things in a different direction where I had to close my business and educate my kids at home. And when AI kind of sprung up, it was one of those things. I'm always interested in new tech and so forth. How can I help, kind of bring my kids up to a level in which, hey, maybe their education maybe fell a little bit during COVID. How can, I into that technology. And as we moved from New York City to Pennsylvania, basically, I needed to integrate myself in a different, complete career change, and nonprofit was really that industry that I found that really was something I was interested in. Instead of serving like the 0.1 percenters in the world, I really wanted to help communities and do grassroots work, and started working with nonprofits on communications and development work, and ultimately got back into basketball and was coaching basketball, and the schools like me. But I realized there's this massive problem in our community. The demographics doesn't lend itself to a lot of resources and access. So I've really just utilized, I've taken AI and tried to implement that into our community where there's not a lot of resources, and we're developing tools, websites, and apps that can actually help in the communities here.
I love that. And knowing, Jen, your work too, there's already a bit of a theme here around like focusing on helping the underserved from both of your work. So I really appreciate that. Laurel, why don't you go?
Yeah, I'll add to it. Similar to Jen's background, I started at a startup that had a very technical B2B product for like network analytics, and it all was leveraging AI ML. I didn't think much of it. I was like, cool, yeah, I'm just designing the things. But then, flashed a couple years ago, and then obviously ChatGPT and everything's been like blowing up. And I was like, oh, I guess I had kind of like worked on the beginnings of that, and I didn't really think of it. So I really wanted to learn for myself, other than like obviously designing for others was great and a very interesting experience given the complex nature of the products I was building. But I really wanted to understand like how can I use that for me? So I eventually ventured into that, which I'm sure we'll get to. But yeah, all B2B space. So I was thinking of it from a very different perspective at the very beginning. But it was fascinating to me nonetheless. And I was excited to like learn about a really technical space and what AI ML was. And now it's been a long time since then. So things have evolved.
That's awesome. You're one of the OGs, I guess, from the B2B space. And Michael, we'll hand over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I can speak a little bit about how I started with AI. I still remember that November, what was it, November 30th, when ChatGPT launched 3 years ago, and thinking, oh, it's just a chatbot, and then interacting with it, realizing like, wait a minute, this is a completely different technology that I wasn't aware of. I always heard about machine learning and AI, but not at that in that way, so accessible, so easy to use. and started getting very interested on it from the point of view of the user experience. So started, designing applications around chatbots. Back then, OpenAI announced custom GPT, so I played a lot around with that. I don't even know if those are available. So it's just started looking at the technology and try to create tools with existing tools. Then, as part of the graduate work that I'm doing with SUNY Polytechnic, I reached out to a couple of professors and I say, hey, I'm interested in this. What can I do and how can I incorporate this into my coursework? And they say, well, we just got a grant from the state to create the AIX lab at SUNY Polytechnic, and we can, give you some of this money so you could do some research. I have no idea what I was getting myself into because I'm not an academic. I never written papers. And I said, well, that's interesting. I don't think I'm ready for something like that. And they were very supportive, and we are here to support you along the way. And I basically just dove in. I took a machine learning class that I barely passed, but I learned quite a lot. And for the first time, I actually had to pick up a linear algebra book, or something that I had never thought ever going to do in my career, um, coming from, a liberal arts background. So I dove deeper. I started working with some of the different professors at the school. We created a project, and that's when I started seeing myself as an actual AI engineer. So I realized that now I understand enough this technology that I can create new tools. I'm not just a user of the technology, but I can also be a creator. And then, as part of my teaching background, I'm an educator. I teach at a couple of schools here. Then I started incorporating some of those concepts into the curriculum, mostly around design and generative AI. So using tools like Midjourney, Firefly, and just kind of teaching the students to incorporate that in their workflow. So yeah, that's what I am right now. Recently, I've been very interested in robotics, human-robot interaction. I think that's definitely going to be the next wave. They say that 2025 was the year of the agent. I think 2026 is going to be the year of the robot, because we are definitely going to see this new wave of humanoid, consumer level robots that take all of these large language models and vision and world models into an actual real machine, a real object that you can interact with. So that's where I am. I created a website called The Robot Age. This is kind of a news, education, just trying to, still find the right direction for that project. But I definitely want to make it a destination for people that want to learn about robotics and how to get into robotics, which it turns out is not that difficult, and you don't really need a lot of money to get into it, which is, probably not what most people think. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I love that, between Jeff and Laurel, who has more of a creative technologist, or like, expanding more into that space. And then Michael, with your engineering background, and Jen, you started out in engineering, right? Like, and then going more into product management. So we do have a panel that is very product expert full. I just made that word up, I think. And I'm just curious, we have an audience here who are thinking about breaking into AI and doing more work in AI. And I wonder, maybe this is a question for maybe starting with the two of you, Jeff and Laurel, which is around when you're not as technical and without a computer science background, for example, what is the actual most effective way to build AI skills? What have worked for you both as you explore this space? And then Jen and Michael, if you have anything to add, I'd love to hear them.
Sure, I'll start. Well, yeah, for a little history, I have a theater degree and a minor in art. So I do not come from a very technical background, but I was always very interested in STEM and science. So those were parts of my life, but not as focused on the creative side of things, right? So that's definitely where I've always been most comfortable. And even when I got that job at that startup that I mentioned, I was like, what am I doing? I'm going to be working at such a complex company, and that's not, you know, the background I have. But the thing I love about design is that if you follow, you know, a design process, so much of it is about learning. And I had already kind of grappled with that early on in my life because I'm also dyslexic, and you have to learn. And so those qualities I've reflected back on a lot lately, being like, oh, interesting. I don't have that fear or hesitance to jump into something and just try it and I'm not afraid of it failing. And I think the beautiful thing about AI right now and how those skills transfer to it is that you can do it first off alone. You don't need anyone around to see, you know, what your failures might be, but they're not really failures, they're learning opportunities. And the tools themselves can teach you how to use them, which is mind-blowing, right? You can literally ask ChatGPT, how do I, you know, best use you? And then you just evolve it from there. But yeah, the theater degree helps with the creativity and the thinking of like, well, what kind of silly, ridiculous things can I build today? And just like going for it and bringing an idea I've had in my head and let pass many times and fade into the ether. Now I can actually just open ChatGPT and like do an image or something just to see what it comes up with. Silly little ideas like that. So you can start really small, but as long as you have that curiosity and leveraging, you know, that mindset of being creative, I feel like you can adopt these tools really quickly. Jeff?
Yeah, that I like working on that, Laurel, because with decorative painting is very similar. Theater and decorative painting kind of are very similar in that, you know, you're always thinking on your feet. And, you know, when you have to serve clients and, you know, complete projects in a very timely manner on job sites, working with different trades and so forth. And again, my work was very physical. And I found it, I don't know, there were a lot of existential issues that I had where, you know, if I was painting in $100 million project or something, you know, you have to go through a process with clients where you have samples that you have to get approved, you know, and you have to replicate a 1 square foot sample on a, you know, maybe few thousand square foot walls, and you know you could have 7-8 layers in order to match it, and you might have to match a style 18th century French or something like that, and you know ultimately people critique it at the end, and that's a hard process to go through. So moving into the digital space and you can hit the delete button, that was very shocking to me, and also kind of eye-opening. So, like Laurel said, you know, failure is kind of not an option in that regard. It's, you know, just keep practicing. You can always start again, which is great. You know, I think Wayne Gretzky, and I always teach it to my players too in basketball. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And, you know, and with AI, it's not like you have that much of a limit. You're paying very little amount of money. You have, as opposed to hiring somebody that maybe knows more about it. I always recommend always looking towards people that do know more, but practicing. You know, if you're practicing and you have an idea, and just put that idea inside your heart and follow it. That's it, you know, and educate yourself with all the tools that are out there, with all the YouTube channels you can find. Taylor U is an awesome platform to learn. So, you know, I suggest just using all the tools available. We're at a digital age now that is unprecedented. So, and accessible. So that's.
Well, Michael or Jen, if you have anything to add, I think we're talking about you know, how to acquire AI skills, and I know both of you have worked extensively in workforce development and adult learning. So, yeah, if you wanted to add anything, I'd love to know.
I'd love to. I'd love to plus one what Jeff just said. Necessity being the mother of invention. I think the best way to learn AI tools is actually to have that idea that motivates you, that you really want to advance in some way, and then say, okay, what are all the tools out there that can help me advance that idea? I think the tip of the spear really is your idea and what motivates you. Because if you approach all these tools with, hey, I don't have a job to be done here, I'm just exploring, then sure, you're going to learn some things, but it's going to be more superficial maybe. Whereas if you have something that you're trying to advance, you're going to dig in deeper with these tools. You're going to be like, can this tool do this thing for me or can't it? And that may cause you to learn more about how the tool works and what are the limitations. So I guess I found that personally in a personal project that I am approaching that is more around, voice AI in service of the elderly. And I also have that forcing function at work, where we're looking to try to make the internet safer through content moderation and data labeling and so forth, that are all really key to that are AI driven. So necessity is the mother of invention.
That's amazing. Yeah, for those who are interested, and Jen, feel free to drop it in the chat. I think Trustlab is mission is amazing, and definitely something that people should check out. So I can see a theme around, finding something that you're really curious about or like excited about and experiment a bit. And I wonder if any of you, or maybe we start with Michael, since you haven't had a chance to voice on that question. When you go and try out all of these tools, it can feel a bit overwhelming, to be honest. And, to see, every new tools, every new models of that tools coming out every week. What's your approach to finding the first things, or like the first few things to solve the problem that you're trying to solve? And, if you can share what's very useful, I think, is like any assumption that you maybe once had that you have kind of abandoned when you approach all of these new tools.
Yeah, so AI fatigue is real. We all constantly bombarded with announcements of new products, new capabilities, new models, uh, and it can be a bit overwhelming. My education, I have to clarify that I'm a graphic designer by education, so I come from a design background. I became technical out of necessity because it was a way for me to, make more money and, have a more stable career. But I do still remember and appreciate those times when I was in design school, when we had to sketch, when we had to, discuss ideas, when we had critiques. And that is something that I still do until this day. I encourage my students, which most of them are digital natives, to put away the computer, to put away the laptop, put away the tablet, and start drawing and sketching on a piece of paper. And take those ideas and then find the correct AI tool to execute that idea. I think that we are living in a world where there is a lot of tools and they can be very specialized. I think that the narrative that we're getting from some of the big players in the industry is we are creating the one tool that is going to do everything for everyone. But I think people have realized that that is probably not a good idea, just to rely on one specific tool. So I think experimentation is key. I think that trying different tools and constantly experimenting should be part of the process, but the essence of creativity and the essence of the idea has to start with you. Um, I believe that some people might disagree, especially people that use generative AI for writing. I have heard some of my students saying, I start with asking ChatGPT for an outline, And then based on that outline, I write my own essay or my own case study. I've heard students saying, I start with my own essay and my own outline, and then I add that to ChatGPT and I refine it and I add more with ChatGPT. So I think there is many ways of doing this. One way which has been very productive for me is I was very interested in 3D, and it's something that I had to learn on my own. So I had to learn Blender, and then I got into 3D printing, and it's a very time-consuming process, an incredibly time-consuming process to model a 3D object, and then to export it correctly for 3D printer, and then actually running that model to a 3D printing. And I find that with some of the new tools in 3D, at the beginning when I tried them, they just didn't work for me. But in less than a year and a half or 2 years, they have come a long way to the point where now I'm using them more. So the speed in which these tools are becoming better, it's just incredible. So there might be a situation where you experimented with one tool and that tool wasn't really what you were looking for, and then you went and experimented with another tool, but it turns out that then this other tool had a new feature, had a new integration, had a new model, and then you go back to our other tools. So it is a constant exploration. I don't think there's really a one path, regardless of whatever ambitions big uh, tech players have to implementing AI. I think it is. I think I want to be in a future where there are choices, and those choices are led to the consumers. And obviously, you want to support companies that are ethical. You want to support companies that are transparent about how they train their models. So that's also a big part of what I do, and I try to encourage people as well, is to research these companies. Right? We hear about this companies doing this and doing that, and they're giving a free trial and they're giving free tokens. Research the company, find out who they are, who are these people, how are they training the models, and then make a choice. Who do you want to support also? So it's not just about what benefits you, but what benefits the industry and I think everyone in overall.
Thank you for bringing that at the forefront, Michael. And I just this morning I was talking to Chris, and I had a similar experience where I had to consider, do I go with Claude or ChatGPT? And when I used ChatGPT in the past, it wasn't serving what I needed to do, and so, but now they do. So, the questions around switching in between platforms and almost like the time and effort it takes to explore all of these tools, to your point, Michael. And I wonder, maybe Laurel, I will come to you. As you are a career transitioner and going from more of a theater background into more of a creative technologist and design, I'd imagine in your creative sabbatical where you explore all of this AI tools, I don't know if you had a roadmap in mind, and I wonder, for those in the audience who are exploring and figuring out what path is right for you, if you can reflect and see, what did you think the timeline would be versus how it actually played out to kind of explore and move into the space that you want to be. Let me know if that's clear.
Yeah, so I started in January. I knew I wanted to take a year off and really dedicate time to just reconnecting with my creative side, because I was in these tech jobs for a long time, and I had entered into leadership and I enjoyed all of that, but I realized how far away I kind of got away from growing my own skills, whether it's creative or technology focused. So I intentionally wanted to take this time to reconnect with that. So first I was like, oh, I'm going to do all the things with my hands and go out and take like courses and craft things. So stained glass and learning to sew and all the fun stuff there. But it was really hard to ignore all of the things coming up with AI, especially on like my social feed. I was like, you know what? I feel like this would be helpful too, though, to learn. So I wasn't really planning on it, but it started to shift into me being more and more enticed with the different tools in AI that are out there. I have a difficult time writing, for instance, because I'm dyslexic. So I've never called myself a writer. I never felt confident like putting out articles or anything like that. And so I would say the first thing that really like intrigued me was trying to use at the time ChatGPT, but now I prefer Claude to help me write articles. And I would basically just brain dump and record what I'm saying with the idea that I had, and then have it clean up and like write out my bullet points and things. And then I would iterate from there on my own. But that really helped. But that was my entry point for doing it for myself. And like I had mentioned earlier, playing around with different, like I'm a jokester. So making silly songs or making silly poems. I remember writing a poem for my husband for our anniversary using ChatGPT because why not? Or generating a photo of something silly that just happened to us. So that's where it kind of started. And then I was like, wait, I feel like I should explore this more. I realized in my past that I had actually worked on things like this, but I didn't connect the dots. I wasn't like, oh, because I just worked in the B2B space building these products, I am like officially like an AI practitioner. But now that I've like reflected back on it, I realized I guess that experience carries over. And midway through my sabbatical, and after taking a bunch of classes and courses, because that was the purpose of the sabbatical, that were AI oriented, I was like, let me start a business because I want to learn about business, one for one, as a founder. And I also want to apply what I'm learning to the business so I learn better and I have like a topic, to Jen's point, you know, to focus on, right, out of necessity. So giving myself that goalpost really helped me start to craft a roadmap around what exactly I needed to learn and why. But it was more rooted in the things that I needed to do for the business rather than the tools that I needed to learn for AI. But I was just trying to apply those things as going. So, oh, is there an agent that can help me with social media? Is there, you know, a custom GPT I can make that is specifically built around the business I'm making, and it knows all the things that I'm trying to brainstorm with it that can help generate, you know, additional content, but also still keeping me in the loop so that it's not, I don't know, you know, too AI sloppy, because I don't want to get to that either. But he's trying to find that balance a little hard. I hope that answered your question, but that's kind of how where I've like gone in my journey over the past, I don't know, 10 months with it all.
Gotcha. So you started out as something out of curiosity and then evolving into, I love this note that I actually really love that about you. I want to learn about business, so I started a company. I think that's really great to be that hands-on and kind of figuring it out. And I love that you took time for yourself to explore this. I do wonder, you know, and maybe Jen will come to you because I think you have a lot of experience and you've navigated so many different industries. One of the things that I've got asked a lot by people doing our workshops is that, you know, sometimes companies or even industry would ask, hey, we want people with AI experience, and sometimes they would ask 3 years of experience, right? And you know, what's your advice for breaking the cycle of you need the AI experience to get AI experience that keeps people out? Yeah, maybe Jen, you can start, and then others feel free to jump in.
Yeah, so I would say two things. One is experience doesn't have to come from the job you're getting paid for, right? So if you do have a passion project on the side, if you do start your own side hustle, or you know, you're volunteering with an organization and you know, delving into AI things because of that, like that's still experience. I mean, I'll never forget this this one designer that I hired at a small startup, and she you know, she had done like an internship one time. She had no like post she got a master's degree, which was awesome. She had not done any like design experience in a full-time job for any period of time, but she showed me her master's project, and that master's project demonstrated her design thinking capability, her empathy, her ability to, you know, do the research, understand who she was solving for. And it just, it told such a good story, and it was so clear this was her work. She had done this work. Like, I didn't care that she hadn't gotten paid for it. That was part of a master's project that she did. I was like, you're hired, like, let's go. So I think that if as long as you're doing some of that work, doesn't matter if you're not getting paid for it. And then you have to story tell. You have to be able to communicate. You have to really paint the picture of, hey, this is the project that, you know, made me develop all these AI skills and use all these AI tools. And let me walk you through. Here's, you know, end to end. You got to tell the story, and really, by telling that story in depth, you will convince the person they actually did the work. They actually made these things happen. And I think that counts for a lot. The other thing that I would say is, there are so many events, so many hackathons, so many different networking opportunities. And you can also pick up real skills there and meet people who can help you do things. So don't forget about the networking, and that's another key piece, because like, if you really want to like get a job in AI, in these days, if you want to get any job at all, really, you need to have connections, and you need to, you know, find out those connections, and you know, get your foot in the door in that way. So I'll stop now.
Awesome. I really do love that quote. Experience doesn't have to come from the job you're getting paid for. Clearly you've done this a lot. And that you know, hackathons, events, getting hands-on, that makes a lot of sense. Anyone else have things to add to what's your advice for breaking the cycle of you need AI experience in order to get AI experience?
Yeah, I think I can elaborate a little bit into that with some personal experience. Look in the places where no one is looking. I think that if you start with a problem that you can solve, rather than I want to use AI to solve a problem that doesn't really exist, it will give you a better chance for someone to give you an opportunity to collaborate. So I can tell you, for example, one of my students, he's very technical. He had a computer science degree, so he was more on the AI engineering side of things. And I connected him with a produce company. It's a company that imports Mexican produce. And the problem that they had is it takes a long time for them to check these shipments when they bring them down from the trucks, and to make sure that the product is in good condition. So it's a lot of manual work. They have to open boxes. They have to, you know, check in with flashlights, and it's just, you know, and it's very important, because if they accept the product and they don't check it correctly, you could be potentially losing a lot of money, because, you know, maybe there's a box in there, maybe there is that where the product is not in good quality, and that's a loss. Would be a loss for the company. Once you accept that shipment, that's your responsibility. So that's the problem that they were having. So he started with the problem, and then he started thinking about what AI tools, what models, what app can I develop to help this company with this issue. So he's basically training, fine tuning a vision model with all of these pictures of basically products. But you know, we're talking about um, cilantro, peppers, you know, and he actually had to go in there into this place and take those pictures, because those are pictures that are in very special conditions. They're inside a box. This is an indoor warehouse. So there's a lot of constraints that he had to work around to gather that data. And he's fine-tuning this model, and the idea is that he's going to develop an application where that would allow the company to basically just take pictures of these products and get an assessment of whether or not that shipment it can be accepted. So would it work? I don't know. Maybe it's something that it will require more data. It will require more training. But he started with the problem, and then he tried to build a solution around that. And he's building a whole case study around it. And I think it's going to be a successful project for him. And I think it's going to be something very substantial that he can show potential employers and say, "Hey, I did this. You know, I talked to the stakeholders, I identify a problem, and this is the solution that I came up with."
Awesome. Yeah. Sometimes I'm reminded that we're in the age where the AI technology is changing so rapidly that sometimes people go looking for a problem to use AI versus the other way around, which is I have a problem and AI may or may not be the solution, but I'm going to go straight to AI. So we're going to take some of the audience questions, and I'm going to read the questions aloud, and then those of you who want to jump in, please do so. So Rafael said that really interesting point. I wonder, on days when creativity feels low, do you guys ever feel as that AI's creative output might overshadow your own ideas or limit your creativity growth? How do you keep developing your creativity core while working with AI? Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, I
like the
love this
hand.
question. Yeah, sorry, I didn't use the icon in Zoom. But no, I love this question. You know, I think you have to get back to your roots of what made you creative to begin with. You know, if painting, for instance, I resort to painting, and I haven't even picked up a paintbrush in 5 years. That's the fascinating thing. So you know, go back to your roots of creativity. I love music. I create music as well. And I have kids, and kids are a very good resource for creativity without being tainted by, you know, technology that's happening today, so to say. So even if I'm working with my players in basketball, you know, and how we get back to creativity, I try to get back to community a lot because even if it's not the actual source of your creativity per se, so if you're talking about how does AI overcome what you're doing, and if you're just using it to do the creativity part, then you're kind of, I think you have to just get back into what makes you want to be creative in the first place. So as I said, so if I'm working with my kids, I will say, hey, let's go draw something, you know, and let's get back to the roots of what it is that makes us human in that regard for creativity space. And then how can I incorporate AI later into something that I'm creating? I've definitely taken designs that my kids and I have made and thrown it into something that's AI generative, and you know, and it comes out with something, and that's just something for us. So I always jump outside of the space of digital work a lot to actually get back to the roots of what it is to be human, and and to connect with others that might have a different point of view on what it is that sparks creativity in the first place. Because generally, when it comes to creativity, for me personally, I want to do it for somebody else. I want to make sure I'm trying to do good for something, and in that, I want to connect with people. So generally, that's how I view it. Maybe somebody else on the panel has a different perspective on that.
Yeah, I'd love to add to that. I'm actually reading the book, The Power of Fun, right now, and it talks about what is true fun. And that is usually being away from the digital stuff, though it doesn't have to be, but it's connectivity. That can be connecting with yourself or others. Flow, like getting into the flow of something, right? And play. And I feel like play keeps coming up in my life a lot lately, but I truly feel like the moments when I have that space and time around me where I'm not overwhelmed by all the to-dos of life is when I become the most creative. And usually that involves me goofing off or doing something super playful. So finding the places that you feel comfortable doing that and making a mental note of it is one thing. The other is forming the habit of creativity. I think everyone is innately creative, but oftentimes people shut down their ideas immediately when they have them because they're like, oh, someone probably already built it, or oh, that's not unique enough. But who cares? It's okay. So many people recreate something that's already been created. So that's fine. But what I've gotten in the habit of doing is if I come up with something that's silly or funny, or I'm like, oh, I wish there was an app for that, or there was a solution for that, or whatever, I have a note in my phone that is just all of my random ideas. So the moment when I'm not feeling creative and I'm at my computer, I will open that note up and see what there is that I can like glean from and maybe like get a little spark of, of ambition to try to build. And with vibe coding, I feel like that point of idea to a tangible prototype is like obviously drastically reduced. So I can actually see those ideas form within minutes and get me to that point. And that's satisfying in its own right, even if it never becomes anything.
That's amazing. Thank you both for sharing that. Definitely from the two people who I know draw a lot every day. So the next question is from Natalie. What's your view on employee AI usage and limits inside companies, organizations that are highly regulated, like pharma, like healthcare, like banking, versus consumer products or tech companies? I wonder, maybe Jen. Yep. Go please. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. So I think as with any other kind of software or system or tool, your organization, especially in regulatory environments, first of all, the tool may need to meet some standard, like, is it SOC 2 compliant? Is it HIPAA compliant? Whatever it is. So there are third-party objective standards that you can look at the tool and you can say, okay, is it compliant with that standard? Like, does it have that certification? If it doesn't, maybe you just say, sorry, y'all, you can't use that, like, within the four walls of the organization or within the VPN or what have you of the organization. You can use that personally, but not within the four walls. So, for regulated organizations, you do need to maintain certain standards. And then I would say, hey, it's the Wild West out there. Like, a lot of these tools, they don't have guardrails, or if they do have guardrails, they don't always work because, these AI agents, they, could potentially spill the beans on personally identifiable information or other things in the course of some hacking. So I think it's a question of creating some policies and guidelines, and maybe consider working with some companies who do monitoring and evaluation, depending on how big the organization is, to actually make sure that that information that shouldn't be going outside the organization is staying safe.
Yeah, I'm convinced that we're very soon going to hear of a major data breach caused by some sort of AI tool integration. It's just going to be inevitable. Doesn't matter how hard companies invest on security and on privacy, especially now where we have MCP servers, which are basically this technology that caught up like wildfire, um, that allows large language models to communicate with your data, and all of the potential security issues around that. Definitely is going to be something we'll hear more about for sure.
Oh, I'm a part of Comet and Perplexity's Comet. I definitely think there will be something that will cause problems. I'm not going to call them out, so to say, but yeah, that web browser is fascinating to say the least.
Well, you did call them out and we're on a recorded line. So here we go. Cheating.
Thanks.
Okay. And I think we'll take one more question from the audience. Yes, everybody's nodding when Michael mentioned data breach for sure. So Sprika was wondering while exploring with AI tools, most of the times I give up on it because I have a very clear vision in mind that it just keep creating something else altogether. Is it about researching how to prompt with a particular tool or something else? So this is a more practical question. I wonder who would like to take this one?
I'll just kick us off real quick and say, I think prompt engineering it is good, like, you know, prompts, but I think that I think it was Chris who said, hey, you know, it's also about context. Context engineering is now a thing as well. So it's like, you know, if you have more context, whether that's imagery, whether that is, you know, notes that you've written down, that can give the you know, the LLM tool a little bit more of a holistic sense and more details about what will meet your vision, then I would do that. Just provide more and more context. But yeah, it is an iterative process and it can be frustrating. Totally get it. So maybe time bound it, you know, maybe say, hey, I'm going to invest whatever 45 minutes into trying to get this darn thing, you know, to come up with something that meets you know, my vision. And if I can do it in 45 minutes, hey, you know, maybe go try on another tool. So you know, you don't want to get feeling defeated if you're banging your head against a wall. You got to manage your own level of patience with these new tools.
That's well said. Hey team, so I want to save some time at the end to share a few resources as well that folks in the room can take right away, take actions right away. But I want to give the panelists that opportunity first. So if you know, someone in the room wants to start their AI journey tomorrow, what's the one concrete thing that you recommend they take this week? Or I guess today, tomorrow.
I'll go first. Go to, well, you can take a course through Taylor Rue, but they're also on Maven. So I was gonna say go to maven.com, I think. Search AI courses and see what free lightning talks you can join and get inspired by that. Attend those. And if it like really resonates with you, sign up for one. Figure out something like a cool idea that you feel like would be a good goalpost, you know, to take that course through. And develop it that way. That's what I did with a boot camp and a hackathon, and now I have a layoff relief app. So that's my suggestion.
Awesome.
I'll
Thank you.
jump quickly in. Go build an agent. Go to mindstudio.ai, learn N8N. You know, try getting your hands on that. N8N is a little more difficult, a little bit more complex, but it gives you a little bit more flexibility, kind of like the Linux, I guess, of operating systems. But yeah, look up YouTube videos, tutorials, but MindStudio makes it a little bit easier to comprehend. I think there's Lovable and all that stuff too. So yeah, build an agent and come up. I think that's the best way. Dive in with that way.
Yeah, one resource that I recommend to everyone is deeplearning.ai. There's a lot of free courses in there, very short courses, very digestible, easy to follow, easy to complete. I think sometimes when we want to do self-learning, we over ambitious and we, you know, try to do things that perhaps we're not qualified to do or to understand at that moment. It gets frustrating. So start with something very simple. I come from a technical background. So first thing I will, for those of you who are interested on that aspect of AI, is start with Python. Just learn a little Python. After you understand how the language works and how the environments work, then look into agents. Hugging Face is another incredible resource It's basically the Facebook of machine learning. So there's people in there loading their models, sharing their progress. You can try their code, you can try their models absolutely for free. And the third thing that I would recommend you is learn how to use large language models locally on your computer. So learn how to use a tool like Olama, which allows you to use large language models in your computer, meaning you don't need the internet to use the large language model. It is installed on your computer. So no data is ever going to leave your computer if you use that. I use at least a dozen of models on a daily basis. Some of them are local, some of them are on the cloud. So for those of you who are definitely technical, that's what I would recommend.
Awesome. Well, I want to also share some resources that we've developed in the collective to the extent that they are helpful. Let me share my screen again very quickly. Hang tight, hang tight. Okay. So thank you, Laurel, for that seed. So the whole thing around this collective is that we really want to give access to the public to do more AI work. And part of that has to do with like hands-on training. And we're trying to make it very accessible, or like as accessible as could be. So this is one of those workshops that are coming up. This one is a 3 sessions, and it's around prototyping an idea so that you can go to market and test it. Likely more towards founders, people who want to tinkle with things. And here's an offer for you all. Again, this is what we can do. So the team will drop a link in the chat. If you want to join us in November, we'll have these sessions. And then tangibly, there are also these ways that you can try to or check out and try to work with us. One of which is, we are a group of consultants, freelancers who are working in the AI space. If you're curious about how to work with us, you can definitely talk with me. And here's a way to connect. If you want to be part of our collective, if you're a practitioner or even just curious about getting more involved with AI, here are 2 ways to get involved. You can either apply to be part of the collective. We're starting to open up our group again. And you can also join the Stitch community on Slack, which I know some of you've already joined there. So I'm going to leave these links on screens, QR code, and we hope to see you at one of these events. And thanks for joining. Thank you, Jen and Michael and Laurel and Jeff. That was awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a good rest of your day, okay?